Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Sophia Wardell, and today we have a very special guest, romantic comedy author KJ Micciche. KJ is a novelist from Queens, New York, who writes mostly romantic comedy. KJ has written two novels, The Book Proposal and A Storybook Wedding. KJ also runs a nonprofit organization that teaches kids with dyslexia how to read, and she pens her own stories as well. Thanks for joining us today, KJ.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you here. And today I want to talk about writing contemporary romantic comedy.
Mm. Yes, it's a lot of fun.
I bet. How can I create an authentic and relatable character or characters in a contemporary romance novel?
I think that being relatable is probably the most important part when it comes to romantic comedy. First of all, in order to make ourselves laugh, we have to be relatable, right? It has to be something like, oh, I've been through that, or something that
Right.
people can really can connect with. And so they say write what you know. So I find that oftentimes I lean into stories or like silly things that have happened to me or things that I've heard, things have happened to my friends and stuff like that. And I'll always keep a running log in the back of my head of like, where can I use this later on? Which makes me a lot of fun at cocktail parties. Um, so yeah, I think that you just have to make sure that you're going back to things that other people have been through, things that you've been through, and then just telling those stories in a way that is accessible, that might seem maybe outlandish, but not so outlandish that it's not believable. And then by doing
Right.
that and creating the reactions to those events in your characters, that's where the connection happens, is how does the character react to this ridiculous thing that's just happened to her? And is that how I would react if it happened to me? And so I think if you do that, then you can create relatable characters that are authentic.
Yeah, I love that. I think, circles of friends and funny family members are probably a lot of fuel for your writing
Sure.
inspiration. And
Definitely.
yeah, and on that note, since the characters you create are relatable, but also there's funny twists and most of the time happy endings, what would you say, or how better yet, would you say, do you balance the emotional depth of real human characters and then like a very light, fun, comedic sense in your books?
It's a hard balance, I'll be honest with you. It took me a long time to balance humor with sex, to be honest with you. Like if we're, going right for it, that's what romance is at, at its crux. There's a lot
Mhm.
of that. So that was one of the hardest things to balance, is understanding that like in the everyday there is humor, but then there is also emotional complexity and, intimacy and things like that certainly lend themselves to that kind of dichotomy there. Um, I think you just got to go for it, to be honest with you. I think you just got to, just like with life, it's messy and it's not really something that you can script perfectly. And so I
Right.
think that that makes it again really authentic when you've got, this very wonderful scene that happens that's intimate and beautiful, and then from there like something ridiculous happens and we go from, being in this tender moment to like all of a sudden laughing. I think that's really it's just kind of how life plays out. And that's why I think that rom-coms are an evergreen space. I feel like no matter how old we get or how much time passes, people will always love a good rom-com, whether it's a movie or a book, because everybody can relate to, the idea of wanting a happily ever after and all the nonsense that goes into finding one.
Exactly. And that's really interesting. On that note, with the romantic relationship progressing throughout the story, how do you naturally progress it? Because I feel like when you read or watch a rom-com, you kind of know, these guys, they're going to end up together. So how do you make that more just natural and relatable?
I think that that's a real in-scene thing. And it really hedges on dialogue, right? Like dialogue and banter. And the more you get your characters in the same room together, whether they're uncomfortable or they're, totally jiving, like whatever it is, you have to put them in the same room together as often as possible. And that's how you build it. So it's just like any natural romantic relationship, like, ooh, he texted me, like, ooh, I saw him in the
Yeah.
grocery store, like whatever, you know what I mean? Like all those little moments that kind of create a catalog of of this story that builds. And I feel like it's the same way in real life, right? Like that's how we create our relationships. It's just a long list of moments. um
Right.
the more of those that you create, and that you can get a reader to feel something, just like the characters would feel something, just like if it was you, you would feel something. You kind of move the needle a little bit with each one. It's not, at least for me, my stories are not typically like insta love stories, but I feel like it's a slow build, like a roller
Right.
coaster.
Right. Like real life. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
like
true.
real life. Exactly.
And what contemporary themes or issues do you incorporate to make it just more relevant to either the time or the market that you're catering to with your novels?
That's a really hard question, I have to be honest, because I think that, like I said, with rom-com being evergreen, I feel like it's just set up then the rest of it, right? Like,
Right.
it's like, okay, well, where are we going to place these characters? We know what we're looking for. We know the beats. We know where we have to go. We know we're looking for, them to get together, and then there's going to be something happening, and then it's going to fall apart, and then they have to get back together again, or something to that effect. And so what's going to be our like staging ground for this? So that shifts, with the times, of course, but for the most part, there's typically a lot of family things that go on, right? There's always like some sort of a family party or event, or, there's a lot of that happens. My most recent book was set in a schooling setting, like a graduate degree program. So there's,
Mhm.
I've got school. You could set something at work, right? Work is a very natural place for people to meet and to get to know each other. Vacation is a very natural place for people to meet and get to know each other. But I think, it's nothing really outlandish in rom-com. Rom-com's pretty basic. So, it's
Right.
it's not that hard to contrive these situations. And because it's so light and, like palate cleansing, I tend not to go into anything that's like current affairs or anything like that. You don't want to touch on any of that. We're not
Right.
interested in that. We just want a good time. We're not not
Yeah.
here
Yeah. Yeah.
just looking for some laughs and some lighthearted good fun, and then get us in and out. So
Yeah, okay. Well, that makes perfect sense. And my last question for you, you've touched on it a little bit, but it would be, how do you balance between escapism and realism in contemporary romance?
So the escapism is that there's going to be a happily ever after, right? Like we know that that's what we're here for. That's what we signed up for. Um, and the reality is like all the stuff that happens that makes it difficult for us to get there. And
Mm,
so because life is like that, because real life gives us obstacles all the time and challenges, it's really easy for someone to sign on to watch or read something that, goes along with that same kind of course.
right.
But the escapism component of knowing that at the end things are going to work out in this lovely way creates hope. And I think that as humans, we are kind of like innately wired to want to find the hope in things, to want to find the good, and to look for that which is optimistic, and to try and look on the bright side of things. So I think that's why people will always come back to the genre, because it just provides this like, don't worry, everything's going to be okay, kind of like comfort and security and hope that, like, if you're having a terrible day, at least for me, if I'm having a terrible day, I could curl up in pajamas and watch like Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds in The Proposal and eat a giant bowl of popcorn and be immediately comforted. And like, you know what
Right.
I'm saying? Like, I think that that's what the genre really brings to people. And we always need that. Like, we always need a good measure of hope in our lives. So
You're
that's
right. Yes, it all works out in the end. Everybody loves a good story like that. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Well, KJ, thank you so much. That was so insightful.
You're welcome.
And lastly, I want to know, where can our listeners find and connect with you? Do you have a LinkedIn, a website?
I don't have a LinkedIn. I feel like I should be more professional and have one now that you've suggested that. But no, I have a website, of course. It's kjmicciche.net. So it's just my name, .net. And then, of course, I'm on Instagram, which is at kjmicciche. So, and I love to talk to people. I'm an open book. So if anybody wants to hit me up, by all means, please slide into the DMs. I'm happy to talk to you there.
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into today's interview with romantic comedy author KJ Micciche. Be sure to check out our website for more videos. Wishing you all a fulfilling and successful writing journey.